I have a lot of newspapers. Now, you may be wondering why. That is because for my final university project, I am designing my very own newspaper with the title Forgotten Town, but the news name, The Swinton News. At the moment, it's looking a lot like this. And that is inspiration that I've taken from all the different newspapers that I have. I don't even know if you can see this right now. And that has taken inspiration from all these different newspapers that you see down here. Now, I collect ones like The Guardian, Bolton News, because that's where I live, Bury Times, Manchester Evening News. I collect all these different publications, and I look through them. I'm just putting them down there so they're away. And I look through them to get inspiration, ideas away from where my newspaper is. Now, the whole idea behind my project is to explore local journalism in my area, which is Swinton, in Salford, in Greater Manchester, wherever you want to call it. And I'm looking at the idea of why the towns are declining, and also some of the human interest and positive journalism stories in the town. And that's what has started developing with this newspaper, as you can see on screen right now. It's coming together, and if you look at some of the other publications like this one here, you can probably see where I get my inspirations from in terms of the colouring, and I guess as well in terms of page layout, although I'm not happy with that at the moment, so we are going to fix that. But the idea of this video today is to look at how I create my newspaper and how I got it printed into a tangible piece of content that you're seeing here on actual newspaper paper. Everything you see in here is completely designed from scratch by me, and today I'm going to show you how to do that. So, a few things that's worth mentioning. I print my newspaper, I printed it with an online company called Newspaper Club, and they have been amazing. This isn't a sponsored video whatsoever, but I just think the print quality of that is really good, and that's what I've used, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, with Newspaper Club, you can get a test print package, and that comes with every single kind of publication that they print. So you've got the ones that I printed on the digital tabloids, you've got the traditional broadsheets, and you've got some editions as well of like mini magazines. They call them like middies, I think that's how you say it, and they're just in different sizes, different paper types, and obviously each publication as well. Apart from the traditional broadsheet, you get different paper types, and I just think the print quality is really good for what it is, and the delivery time as well is also amazing. They're online. There are some templates which I'm going to show you in a second, but I find that they don't really work for me because of like the previewing. When you go to preview on InDesign, it doesn't like to come up for some reason. I'm probably doing something wrong, so if anyone knows in the comments how that works, please let me know. So what I do is I get the sizing from the template, which is on there. Again, I'll show you through this in a second, and then I literally just add the margins in, and I can design from scratch, taking inspiration from Pinterest, the local newspapers that I've got there, and to be honest, even some of the designs they've got, because there's some pretty solid designs in there. At the moment, I have got a traditional kind of look to my newspaper, but I do want to spruce it up a little bit. Going forward, just to make it a little more exciting for the viewer, so it isn't like the traditional type of like written newspaper, because it is going in a photography exhibition because of my my final project at uni. And it's worth pointing out, actually, if you didn't already know, I'm doing photojournalism at uni, and that's why I do combine a lot of the photography and stuff. But moving forward, after uni, I'm going on to do some form of MA or NCTJ kind of training to become more of like a traditional kind of journalist or multimedia journalist in a sense. Oh, and just for the record as well, I also have many different magazines. I've got car magazines, photography magazines, amateur photographer, obviously the tributes to Martin Parr in there, and even you've got to have an F1 magazine, right? You've got to, that's reviewing the last season, just before this new season is about to start. But yeah, let's get into the computer and let's crack on with how I design my newspaper. Okay, so the first thing I did when it came to designing my newspaper was to find somewhere to print it, because I didn't want to design it in the wrong sizing or anything like that. I wanted to make it all proper. So I did a little Google search, and I found Newspaper Club, and this is the company that I've designed my sizing to and designed from and printed from them. That one I picked, the traditional broadsheet, that is the exact same size as a normal newspaper. You can literally put it over the top and you think it would. The paper's just a bit more of a higher quality, but I guess that's because in other newspapers, they're probably printing loads more and the paper's just slightly thinner, although you can get a really thin newspaper if you wanted to. So on the computer then, what I did was I came to Newspaper Club, and I will link this in the description just so you have it in case you don't want to Google search it. And I came over to this create section and I went on to newspaper templates. And here we have templates for InDesign as well as Canva. So you can design on InDesign, Canva, or you can literally just get the size in. And I would imagine there's plenty of other apps where you can do this. I didn't use Canva for two reasons really. One, because I have Adobe InDesign with my uni account, so I get that for free, and I've already had some experience doing that when I made a photo book. And with Canva, I can't. There might be a way to do this, but I don't know. Of getting the pages, so the double page, so each page was just under it like that, and it was really annoying when I was trying to do double page spreads. I didn't know how to line things up, so that's the reason why I don't use Canva. So with the InDesign templates, you can pick whichever one you want. So obviously I'm going to do a digital tabloid. Digital and traditional are the same sizing. One's just with more print copies and one's just with like less than 500. So it's the same sizing, but I picked digital tabloid and download that. Let's just put it on my desktop. So as I said before, when I went to use this template, I couldn't preview anything. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that, just so you know what I mean, because I can't explain it. So if you look at my screen now, I have this template and it's got the sizing and the margins that I need and to delete this layer. Now, I always found it quite difficult to unlock this layer. I never really understood how to do it, and even now I'm looking about and I don't know how to. But essentially, this layer, this orange, yellowy background, all this should still be visible. But if you went into the preview like this, it would all go blank, where it shouldn't. And even if you did full screen like that, it was still going blank. And by the way, to do them shortcuts, to get it like this is W, and to get it in full screen is Shift and W. So I decided that that wasn't good for me, so I literally took these sizings and I copied it into a new document. I'm going to show you what my newspaper looks like in InDesign to show how many pages it is, how it's all set up, just in case it's relevant, but I am going to show you how to set it up from scratch anyway. Okay, so this is what mine looks like in InDesign. And just for reference, obviously when we did the preview before, now mine all stays the same in both previews. So again, that's W and Shift W. And I'm just using Escape to get out of there. So obviously the one that you've seen that I showed you before is a little bit different now, because when I printed it I noticed a lot of discrepancies that I wanted to change, and I've already started the process of doing that. So the noticeable change here is I've added a box around this to make it more like boxed in with newspaper. Obviously that there, Forgotten Town, is the name. There will be some other updates I'm doing as well, like I will be changing this story at the top, although that is in the newspaper, it's not as relevant the more stories I put in. And then obviously I've got a QR code here which takes me to my website in this little blue box. I've tried to keep the same blue theme running around. Again, there's no particular reason for that. I just like that particular shade of blue. It used to be on my old website, and obviously I'm mimicking newspaper designs. I like taking inspiration from them, and the Manchester Evening News has a yellow one. The Berry Times one that I saw you was red. So I'm just kind of like picking a traditional colour that I can keep consistent through the entire newspaper. The noticeable change here obviously will be the page numbers, again just keeping that blue running all the way through. And everything since I printed is now in 3 columns, because I realised that on the computer screen everything on InDesign looks bigger, looks smaller than what it is, sorry. So when you print it, it looks a lot bigger, and then if you compare that to a normal like newspaper, their text is obviously a lot smaller and in columns, but if you just put it smaller on there, it looks a lot smudged. But in the actual print, it looks perfectly fine. So I've just been sorting out all the text and making it go into 3 different layers as well. And then obviously on here, I've started to add quotes, not quotes, sorry, captions on all the pictures, and a quote there at the top. That is a real quote. It was taken from a survey that I did regarding the town. And obviously the stories are all the same. I need to add a quote in there. Let's just ignore that for now. And then I've got a blank page set for some stories. And on the back, I don't actually know if I showed you the back. I'm going to show you the back again, 1 second. So the back currently looks like this. It's just a picture. I didn't actually know what to put on the back. Obviously, traditional newspapers is sport, but I'm not reporting on any sport. It's not relevant to the project, so I just put a nice picture of the town. Also the same picture as the front. I just thought it was nice consistency. But now on the back, again, all pretty much the same. I've just added some credits on there and like where it's being printed and stuff like that. So that's how I set up my newspaper. So now I'm going to show you how I did this from scratch, adding in the margins. So we just take a copy of this really. So if we go to File, New, Document, and then we can literally just copy these sizes. So obviously these are in millimeters, so I make sure that my units are in millimeters as well. And then we want, so the width and the length. So the width is the smaller one, obviously. So it's 289, and then the height is doing a bit of a longer one, which is 380. Obviously that's just the size of one page, not the entire newspaper. So when it's done together in a minute, as you'll see where my pages went together, that's then the size of the entire document. And then here, so pages and start. To start, we leave it 1 pages. We can literally just add pages in as we go, so that doesn't matter. And then the margins, it says 15 millimeters. So that's literally all the way around. So the top here that you can see, and then obviously the ones in the middle as well. And that's basically just the cut-off margins. So you've got your edge of your document there, but then you've got the margin there. So on the outer edges of the paper, you can't put anything there. It doesn't allow you to print it like that. So when you upload it to Newspaper Club, it won't allow you to print that because it's out of the margins, and you've got to go through and fix it. Trust me, I learnt that the hard way. So all the margins, we literally just do 15, 15, 15, and 15. And then everything else can pretty much stay the same. Like that's not really fun. So then we can literally just go to create, and we get the same size here as what we've had all the way through. And if you come to this little pages tab down there, you can add to new. If you press that twice, you get a nice little double page spread. So there is the first like design, like how to size the newspaper based off this. It's exactly the same size, and as you can see there, we've got the double pages. And then if you did want the end one, you just press this once more, and then you get the end page. So now we have a perfectly working canvas to work with. Okay, so now the pages are also up, we can get into actually designing our newspaper. So if we take what I did for the start of mine, as you can see, I've literally got like the text at the top is just the logo. I didn't fancy designing a new logo because one, the Swinton News, I don't know if that name is staying at the minute. It is just a placeholder because Forgotten Town is the name of the actual project. So I didn't know if that was going to be permanent or not, so I didn't want to make a fancy logo if it wasn't going to be. So I literally just typed it out, and then in hindsight afterwards, I literally realised it was like this. And that's literally just because I've been consuming a lot of their newspapers, along with the Bolton News as well, and my inspiration just came flat from that. So to do that's pretty simple. Obviously, we've got to keep in mind that we need to stay within these margins, as I've already mentioned. So I got a text box. I got it straight from the corner, like that, perfect lined up. Hold shift, and then I dragged out a bit of a text box. It was supposed to go the other way, but never mind. We can just drag it along like that. And in here, I typed Swinton News. Actually, another thing that's worth pointing out is all my fonts have stayed the same throughout. So this is the Times font. All my article writing and website is the Times font. And then here for my headlines and stuff, I've used Orkney Sans, and that's for the headlines. For that, Scanmore, and yeah, just the title, Forgotten Town as well, just everything else. For the page numbers, I've used Times, and for the like news feature introduction, I've used Orkney Sans. Sorry, my mind went blank then. So if we go back to our document, we can change this to Times just by double clicking it, and then I've got Times bold there, which is the one I used. I can afford to make this quite big, so we'll just go with that size there. And then we can sort of like adjust it, so obviously that's a perfect fit, and obviously that is on the margin, so that is fine. And if we get a new text box by pressing the T tool there, we can make a little small one, and we can type the. And again, Times bold. And I can probably get away with that being about 35 maybe. That might be a bit too big. But the idea, yeah, that's a bit too big. So let's go with 25. and then we can drag that to size there and put that in the middle there, just so we've got a very basic but workable title. The next thing I did was I took inspiration from this here, and obviously the yellow that runs through the Manchester Evening News, because it's yellow with the B, so black and yellow for the B. I went with like a blue, and that wasn't for any reason in particular other than I like the colour blue. It symbolises me, and it was the colour of my old website before I moved over to Substack. So to do that, I got the exact colour from there. I literally put a screenshot in from the website bar and I pipetted it on InDesign. I'll show you how to do that, but I'm not going to do it with that blue, but I'll just show you how it works. So essentially, if you get a line like this, and what I did is I used the straight line edge of this margin here, so I just put it on the edge, hold shift, and I drew a tiny line like this, so I knew it was straight. Under the properties tab over here, I selected next to the stroke, I just put it up a few, and that is not a straight line. There we go. Yeah, just keep the line as short as possible so it's straight and doesn't have a chance to move, and then you can literally just drag it to the end like this, and it'll stay straight all the way through, and it'll snap to that margin. I made it quite thick because I'm putting text in there, and then obviously I just dragged it below where I wanted it. So to put the colour on the line, you go to stroke, and then just press the little box there at stroke, and then press this little corner here where it's the black square, double click that, and you come up with this colour picker window. So if I was to import a colour, I would get this little pipette tool down here, I'd hold my click down and move my mouse to where I wanted it. So as you can see, it's changing all over this document. Like I've got grey, I've got that, I've got blue, I've got everything, and you just literally hold it, and then when you found the colour you want, so if I wanted this blue here, I hover my mouse over it and I release the click, that's the blue, and then I can press OK. And now I've got that blue there. That is a bit bright for what I want, so I can literally just come back into the tab, and I can move it and just adjust the colour in until I get a bit of a nice darker blue I'm going for. That looks a lot better. Press OK, and boom, we have our line. Now obviously in there let's just added another text tool, so I'll probably make it a bit thicker still, probably about 15. And in there I literally added in my website name and did everything you'd want to in there, but that's how I designed the title. Obviously I'm not going to go into too much detail of everything on the website because it is pretty on the newspaper, because it is pretty self-explanatory with these basic tips. But essentially if I wanted a box, I'd come down to here, the box tool, make sure it's on rectangle, hold shift, draw out where I wanted it. I can then adjust this, going back to my click tool here, I can then adjust the sizing of it so it goes all the way across into the margin. And again, come to the properties tab, and then I can thicken that line up a bit. I can make it blue, or I can go to stroke, select my colour again, and I can make it a nice black colour there. And I can move that wherever I want on the page. So that's just a nice thing. Obviously make sure it's slightly out the margin there, so I just got to make sure that it snaps to the margin like that on both sides, and then that's how you make the box. And then obviously now you can add images and text. If I was going to do an actual display, now I can do that across a double page spread. It is worth noticing, and I'm just going to get my newspaper again to show you. Now it is worth noticing that I'm not fully happy with this design. Mainly because obviously the columns, so on this one I did 2 columns, and then on my thingy now, on my actual one, I've made it into 3, and that's basically because everything on here, I'm just going to bring you this one out, everything on here looks a lot bigger on the print than what it is on the paper. So I basically just did 3 columns just to make it look a bit smaller, a bit neater, and that's one of the main differences. But obviously I'm not really happy with how the page layout is at the minute, so I will be changing this. I'm probably going to put the picture above the text and then put the headline underneath, because that's what a lot of the other newspapers do. So if I get an example from this one, I'm not going to be able to find one now. It was in one. There, like that. The picture is sometimes above the headline, and I want to do something similar in some of my spreads. Okay, I'm going to stop faffing with newspapers now because that's really hectic. Excuse me. But yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm going to do with that. But say I wanted to do this, obviously I can just, so say I wanted to do this, I just draw a box, the same way as I have done on the thing, but instead of the stroke, I would use the fill option and get the colour the exact same. And then this line is obviously the same as me drawing this line here, but obviously it's a lot less thicker, and then the text underneath. So just make sure that that line isn't there, because obviously you can't go above this, so everything else there is above the line, and that's just a bit further down. It is a lot of trial and error when it comes to making these pages, but once you get the hang of the software, it kind of gets a bit easier. And I'm not a graphic expert in any means. Like this is all new to me as well. I'm learning it as I go. But yeah, it's just easier. It can be. So if I wanted to do this, I grabbed my images. So if I just go to my images, so I've got a lot of these. I should have really put them in here, but I didn't. So I just need to quickly go and find my photos. 1 second. Okay, I found my image. It's in here. So to bring an image in, you can do the place feature in here, but I just drag it from my Finder and it comes there. It gives you this little preview. So you can hold shift and I snap it to a line, and then I just make it there, and it'll keep the proportion of the image the same. Now obviously for this it's quite a big article, but I had a lot of space to fill as well. So I did it to about there, release that, and the picture comes in. And then obviously you can add some text as well. The same way as I did it, holding that there, and I put this all the way at the top, and I changed the size. I'm gonna try it about 20, and then obviously, oh, I've just lost my text box, and then obviously here go to I've forgotten my font. Okay, and then go to here. I've found my font, if I can spell it, and I used the medium, but then you can just change it to the bold there, and I type out my headline. Type out your headline, and then you can Command A, and you can just make this as big as you want. So I've got quite a bit of leeway here, so I can probably do it about 60 and make it quite big. And as long as it has there, so if you go in there, it's in there, and it's looking a lot better, like this. Yeah. And then the last thing I'm going to show you, so that's pretty much how I set up a page. Obviously I've not added the lines at the top like I have there, but I did explain it, and it can be quite easy, but again, this isn't like a detailed tutorial of InDesign because I'm still learning myself. This is just how I did it, and then the printing process. But the last thing I do want to show you is adding columns to your text. So I've got this here, I've just drawn a text box, and I've got one of my articles up. So I'm going to copy and paste this entire article that I wrote, and then I can copy that from Word and then come here, and I'm going to just paste it in straight away there. And then quickly what you have to do is, this is what I hate about InDesign, you have to go through and separate all the text. Again, if there's an easier way to do this, please let me know. Okay, with that all limited out like that, to make a column, it's dead easy. We Command A on all the text. We go to Object, we go to Text Frame Options, and then we've got a little column, a number, a columns tag here. I did 3 columns, but you can do as many as you want. And then just press OK. And obviously there's not enough text on here for 3 columns, but what you can do is you can move it up like that. So say I wanted it in line with this picture, and I wanted the columns quite thin. Whatever way, even with bigger articles, it works a lot better. But essentially, that's how you get 3 columns of text, and you can do that in any way you want. I didn't pick the exact article for this picture, I just picked a random one for this one. But that's how you would do it to get 3 columns of text. Now, in terms of exporting, I'm literally just going to export the one that I've already made because it's easier and there's a lot more to show on the printing side of things. But as you can see, this one would have been a safe export because there's nothing in the print margins. However, if that is a problem, it will on the printing website, it will tell you that. But say you've done your newspaper like this, you've got it all saved and you want to export it and you're happy with the design, you would go to File, you would go to Export, pick somewhere you want it to save. So I'm gonna put it on my desktop, and I've called this one a news tabloid. Go to all pages, and you want pages, not spreads. Spreads conjoins the two double pages together and you like the two single pages make double pages together, you don't want that because it won't print properly. You need pages so it prints as individual pages. And then you can press export, and that'll give a minute. You've got a little loading thing up here, and then once that's done, we can then go to Newspaper Club and I'll show you how to upload. Now I've showed you how to export the files on the desktop. Obviously I can't upload this one because there's not enough pages, because that's still a work in progress. So what I've done is I've pulled the PDF from my very first issue, and all that is literally just taking away some of the double pages. So there's no blanks in there, and obviously this is the working PDF that I've had printed. So that's what it looks like. And again, if you go to full screen, it'll show you the double pages. But if you come off that, it will only show you individual pages. That's normal. That's how it should be. So if we come to Newspaper Club, I've already logged in. That's what I'm about to print now. Obviously, there's some differences, like the box isn't there, but this is because this is the one that does work, because the one I exported, like I've just said, won't work because there's not enough number of pages. So you upload the PDF, you press tabloid, so press the one that you've been working on. You might not have been working on a tabloid, you could have been working on a MIDI or a mini, so whichever one you've been working on to that sizing, select that one, and then come down here and select how many you're going to be printing. Obviously I'm not printing a mass amount, so I can press 1 to 1000 digital print. Give it a title, so I'll just call this tutorial issue 1. And here it tells you, it gives you a checklist to make sure you're not in the lines and what's recommended for printing and stuff. So when you've given all this a read, you can upload your file. I'll upload my Forgotten Town issue 1. And what it's going to do now is it's going to check for any errors on the file to see if it's ready for printing or not. If there's any errors, it'll come up and tell you, but they shouldn't be on this one because I've already printed it. And there we go. We've checked your PDF and everything should be good. So the only thing that came up on mine, so as you can see, there's no issues on any of these because I've printed it. The only thing that came up is this error. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what that means at all. But I didn't have a problem with it in printing. It's still printed normally. So whatever that error is, it's still printed. I have the tangible copy here. It's the exact same. I don't know what that issue is. I just took the risk and it paid off. And it still lets me print. So once you've checked all that, you can have a look and then you can continue the upload. And then what this will do from here, you've got your tutorial. You can select which one you want again. So it depends how many copies you want. So my one. So this was the sample pack one. And you can see on the top what it says. So that says digital tabloid, 55 GSM improved newsprint. So the GSM is the paperweight. There is another one on here, so you can do the 80 GCM bright or the 45 GCM salmon, which are these ones. So the salmon is this colour, so I didn't really think this colour would work right for my print, and it's very flimsy as well, very thin. And this one, for me, the white background and it being thicker paper, it doesn't give me a newspaper vibe, it just gives me a big sheet of like printer paper. So that's why I went for the 55 GSM newsprint one. So you just select that there, but again, if you get the sample pack, like I showed you before, you've got all these options. You can feel them all yourself, you can touch them all, you can like feel the weight of them, and then you can make your own decisions about what's suitable for your print. But for me, I went for the 55 GSM. And then number of copies you want, and obviously the more copies you have, so obviously the price of each individual copy goes down because it's easy to print in batch. But you can view the prices all here, so you see how much it is per copy. And obviously if you order 250, it's only £2 per copy, but your actual price would be £900 because you've got a lot of copies basically. So just verify that there, check you're okay with the price, and then you can literally place your order. And it's as simple as that to make a newspaper. It might take some time getting the design right, something you're happy with, but when you do, you get something that you can hold in your hand, and it does feel really rewarding to work on something online and then see it in print, and to only then know you can expand this further. So as I said, this is a prototype, but it's a good first copy for me for what I wanted, and it's only something I can expand on. And then just as a little bonus clip, this is what my newspaper looks like on the very, very, very first draft. So this is printed on A3 paper, so it's an A4 folded, and it was literally a very, very, very first draft of how I wanted that very first article in the paper to look. So I got the design concept there, that stayed the same, but I was going for a black and white theme, but then I realised I wanted more colour. And then the inside is like that. No columns, no different fonts. Pictures are alright. And then obviously I've still got the line and the date, but obviously I can't put the date on the main one because it's a consistent project. But this is what it looks like. That's what it did look like. And this is what it looks like now. So it just goes to show that with a bit of time and a bit of effort, putting in and researching and designing, you can make something that you can be proud of and something that you can continue to work towards as well. That's the end of this video. Please subscribe if you like to see more informal videos like these, tutorials, just sit down videos away from the more formalized news reports that I do. Maybe more behind the scenes. I'm happy to do that. Just let me know down below if that's something you want. And if it is this kind of content you like, please feel free to subscribe and like this video to let me know that you've enjoyed it, and then I'll know to do more content like this. If you did enjoy watching the whole newspaper process and you want to keep up to date with that, follow me on Instagram down below. I'll also upload more videos regarding the project, what I'm doing, more newspaper designs, because obviously that has not got much in it right now. It is the very first draft. So I will be adding a lot more into that. I will be making a lot more content to go into that, writing a lot more stories, potentially even shooting some videos as well between now and the end of the academic year for university, which is in June. Well, our final show is in June. So if that's something you want more updates on, to keep updated on, then this is the place it's going to be. I will do more updates on that and a lot more videos about my newspaper, and I'll even about my project in general, just talking about the kind of ideas for my project, what's doing, and hopefully that might give you some inspiration if you want to do something similar as well. But that being said, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.